Think about that for a moment. John Steinbeck, a man who'd mastered the English language, who'd won every literary prize imaginable, whose words had moved millions, was sick with envy watching 20-year-old helicopter pilots, not because they were brave, though they were, and not because they were heroic, though many were, but because they possessed a skill he knew he would never have, no matter how badly he wanted it. I watched their hands and feet on the controls, he continued. The delicacy of their coordination reminds me of Pablo Casal's sure, seemingly slow hands on the cello. They are truly musicians, and they play their controls like music, and they dance them like ballerinas, and they make me jealous. Because I so long to do the same. Steinbeck saw what most people missed. Helicopter pilots weren't just soldiers operating machines. They were artists, musicians, dancers. Their hands on the cyclic and collective weren't mechanical motions. They were performances, virtuoso displays of coordination that rivaled anything in a concert hall or on a ballet stage. He'd watched Pablo Casals, one of history's greatest cellists, perform. And he saw the same grace, the same unconscious mastery in the hands of young warrant officers flying Hueys over a hostile jungle. Then Steinbeck wrote something heartbreaking. Do you remember your childhood nighttime dream of perfect, free, and wonderful flight? It's like that, and sadly, I know I never will. The Nobel laureate had discovered a dream he couldn't achieve. At 64, with hands that had typed masterpieces, he knew they would never learn the muscle memory required to fly a helicopter in combat. They were too old and forgetful to receive orders from the command center. My hands are too old and forgetful, he admitted, to receive orders from the command center, which speaks of updrafts and crosswinds, drift and changes of direction, or ground attacks indicated by a small puff or a flash or a bang, and all these commands must be obeyed by the musician's hands instantly and automatically. He understood the complexity. Pilots weren't just flying, they were processing dozens of inputs simultaneously. Wind direction, altitude, terrain, enemy fire, formation position, radio calls, and their hands had to respond instantly, automatically, the way Casal's fingers found the right notes without conscious thought. Steinbeck could only watch, admire, envy. I must express my desire in admiration and joy at seeing it, he concluded. Sorry for the ecstasy leak, Alicia, but I had to get it out or I'd explode. Ecstasy leak. That phrase alone tells you everything about what Steinbeck experienced in that Huey. He was overwhelmed, transported, witnessing something so beautiful it couldn't be contained. This wasn't a propaganda. Steinbeck wasn't cheerleading for the war. In fact, his Vietnam coverage would later become more critical of the conflict. This was pure, honest appreciation for the human skill elevated to art. The helicopter pilots he flew with probably had no idea who he was. They were warrant officers in their early 20s, most barely out of high school, flying one of the war's most dangerous jobs. Huey pilots had some of the highest casualty rates in Vietnam. They flew into hot landing zones, extracted wounded under fire, provided close air support at treetop level. They didn't think of themselves as artists or musicians or dancers. They were just doing their jobs, trying to stay alive, trying to bring their crews home. But Steinbeck saw deeper. He saw what their training and experience had created, a fusion of human and machine so complete that the helicopter became an extension of their bodies, responding to thought as quickly as their own hands. He saw the swallow-like grace of a Huey banking along a stream bed, the balletic precision of a combat landing in a tight clearing, the musical coordination of hands and feet working controls in perfect harmony. And he saw his own limitation, the dreams we carry from childhood that remain forever out of reach no matter how much we achieve in other areas. John Steinbeck could create worlds with words. He could make readers weep, rage, hope. His novels changed American literature. But he would never fly a helicopter. His hands were too old. That dream was closed to him. So he did what writers do. He captured it in words so perfect that decades later they still make helicopter pilots stop and think, someone finally understood. Steinbeck died just over a year later, in December 1968. His Vietnam dispatches were among his final published works. That passage about helicopter pilots, that ecstasy leak, became one of the most beloved pieces of writing about aviation ever composed. Vietnam helicopter veterans still share it. They print it out, frame it, read it at reunions, because Steinbeck gave them something rare, literary validation. He told them they weren't just soldiers or pilots. They were artists performing at the highest level of their craft. He saw their hands on the controls and recognized Casal's hands on the cello. He watched them dance their helicopters through hostile sky and saw ballerinas. He flew with them through the nightmare of Vietnam and found beauty. That's what great writers do. They see what others miss. They find the universal in the specific. They transform experience into language that outlasts the moment. And sometimes, like Steinbeck in that Huey overplay coup, they confess to envy, to the aching desire to do something they know they'll never be able to do. Sorry for the ecstasy leak, Alicia, but I had to get it out or I'd explode. 60 years later, that ecstasy still leaks through. Every helicopter pilot who reads those words feels seen. Every person who ever dreamed of flight feels understood. And every reader encounters something rare. A Nobel Prize-winning novelist admitting that some forms of mastery exist beyond words in the hands of young men flying Hueys through hostile sky, their fingers dancing on controls like musicians playing instruments that only they can truly hear.